Yo, 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 what it is, what it was, what's it gonna be?
Welcome.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Gen Expertise Podcast, episode 49, entitled Say the Quiet Part Loud. We are your hosts, Main and Rants, aka Quiet Riot and Mayhem. Yo, what's good?
Cool.
What up, champ?
What's good, man? I'm good.
Hey,
How's everything?
Everything is good, man. So we have finally come to the conclusion of the World Cup. Congratulations to Spain.
Yes,
España, who won 1-0 in extra time over Argentina. Did you watch?
I did watch. I caught kind of the last bit of it. To be honest with you, but
Yeah.
my son's been into it, so I did watch.
Yeah.
Kind of glad Spain won. He's
Yeah.
not so glad he won, but he's
a messy
too
guy.
young. Yeah, he's a messy guy.
Yeah, he's a messy
but
guy.
he's too young to understand. But there's a lot I have to talk to him about Argentina.
Yeah.
And the history of
it's some
Argentina.
history. Yeah.
And like there's a similar history with not similar,
España
but
too?
like there's a parallel type of thing with Spain. But anyway, I don't want to make it a thing.
Yeah.
But
It's all about the sports.
congratulations. Congratulations to Spain for winning the World Cup.
And check this out. Congratulations to my man Nico Williams Jr., who basically came in and won the match for Spain. Nico Williams Jr. is a Spanish-born Ghanaian, and the guy with the dreads.
Okay.
The guy with the dreads. Yeah, he scored the first goal, but it got called back on a penalty.
Yeah, I saw. I did see that. I did see that part where he scored, but then they called it back.
And then he assisted on the game-winning goal. Beautiful assist on the game-winning goal. So shout out to Nico Williams Jr.
Yeah, shout out to him. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know any of the players.
My personal man of the match. My man of the match. That's the player that get it called like the man of the match. That's my personal man of the match. But it was a good game. Yo, the Argentinians shut down Times Square. Shut it down. Thousands. They had to shut streets down because they were just all over Times Square. They just took it over, yo. Took it over to watch the match. I don't know if they were showing it on the Jumbotron out there or something, but they were all over. It was thousands of them on Times Square. Yeah. They shut it down. But so shout out to Spain for their second World Cup. So we got basketball season out the way. This has been a good summer. We got the World Cup out the way. Now I guess we just left with them Yankees and the Mets. And I don't know about the excitement level that we have for these guys this year.
You don't think it's going to be the same? You don't think it's going to be the same level?
Nah, it's not going to be the same level. Although the Yankees, we are playing the Dodgers this weekend. But you know, the Mets were out of it after the first week. Shout out to my Mets fans out there, yo. I feel your pain. But you know, as Maine and I are our birthright being Bronx representatives, go Yanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, all the time.
All the time.
Yo, so speaking of the city too, what's going on with? So I know that there's wildfires in Canada, right? Like if people don't know, wildfires in Canada that are causing the air quality to be compromised in certain places, certain cities, certain states, right? So in New York, I know that when we spoke the other day, because we do our little video conference to prepare for the week, you know, I saw behind you there was like it looked like the movie Doom. I don't know if everybody seen the movie Doom. To me, it looked like you were on the movie set
on the Spice Planet.
You look like
Was it Arrakis? Arrakis, I think is the name of the planet.
Yeah, you look like you were out there like hunting for spices, ready for a war. Yeah, so I'm like, what is going on out there?
Yeah, it's been a week. So we got hit with those. I think it's Ontario. The fires are in Ontario. I guess it's coming downwind, upwind, whatever. But it's leaking over here into the States. So the air quality since Thursday has been terrible.
And you said you could actually smell the smoke, like in the Bronx. You could smell smoke from Canada.
Yeah, in the Bronx.
In the Bronx. That's incredible.
You can smell the smoke. Thursday, the sky was overcast. You could see it was supposed to be like blue skies and sunny and blue skies, but the sun could not crack the smoke.
Really?
Yeah, so it was overcast. It was supposed to be
Yeah,
a
that's
really
scary.
hot day. It was supposed to be a really, really hot day as well. Um, but with all that smoke cover, it made it overcast and actually made it kind of cooler, but the air quality was in the 170s or the 200. It was bad. And
You had some rain
oh yeah,
during
then
this too.
then we got the remnants of the fire, and then we got the rain. We got
Right.
a little dirty rain. Um, and some flooding in parts of Queens, Brooklyn, Lower Manhattan, Long Island. They got some flooding. They got a lot of flooding actually. So here up in the Bronx, we're good. We just got a lot of rain, but you know the Bronx are known for their hills. So we
Right.
don't always get flooded like the other places which are more flatland. So it's been a
Yeah.
week. It's been a week, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy. It sounds
It's
like y'all
been a
going
week.
through like the plagues that Moses sent to Egypt.
Oh my gosh,
like,
yo, it's biblical. It's biblical.
like yeah.
It's
Yeah,
biblical.
it seemed like a
Mhm.
lot of crazy stuff that's happening, man. Like between the type of storm you have, like dirty rain because of the air quality, because of
Mhm.
some wildfires in Canada.
Yep.
We got I just was reading about I won't even go too deep. This is off topic, but like, I just heard about like bees dying in record numbers because the current administration pulled the research
The bee research.
yeah, the bee research
Mhm.
team has been pretty much shut down,
Yeah.
so bees are dying.
Yeah,
And
man.
it yeah, it's just crazy. And without if people don't know, without bees there's going to be like
With
no produce
with
and
no
no
bees, there's no me's, yo.
yeah, there's no fruit or vegetables without bees,
Mhm.
basically, right?
Yeah,
You can look deeper into that if you want,
for the
but
pollination. Mhm.
yeah, like bees pollinate and they make sure that I think it's about like 70 to 80% of our food like
Of our food, yeah.
is the is because of bees pollination. And that's a
Mhm.
high. What I think if I might be wrong about that, but I think it's between 70 and
No,
80%, something like that.
I think that's on point. I think that's on
Yeah.
point. It's a
And
lot, man.
and so like getting rid of research that would help to make sure that we secure and kind of make sure that bees live and that they thrive is
Yeah.
pretty important, you would
Yeah,
think.
man.
Um, but I guess it's the same folks that got rid of the other thing I forgot, man. Um, the explosive diarrhea that
Oh,
people are experiencing
the
because of
parasite.
bacteria, the
Mhm.
parasite in the vegetables,
Yeah,
especially
man.
lettuce.
And
Um,
and as a man who follows a vegan diet, I am on high
yeah,
alert,
you are
son.
really getting hit with the plagues. No bees, explosive diarrhea, no, you can't eat vegetables. Vegetables are dangerous.
You
Crazy. The
know?
air quality's bad. You're getting
Yeah.
dirty rain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
A
been
vegan from the Bronx
a vegan
is a
from the
hard
Bronx, son.
a vegan in the Bronx is a hard life right now.
Yeah, we get rid of
That's
the bees,
crazy.
son. We just gonna be able to grow corn and soybeans. That's it. Like
Yeah,
what's the
that's
movie? What's
crazy.
that really
Oh,
bad movie
you could go
with
sprouts.
oh,
You could
that's
be
right. I could always
you
grow
could get
sprouts.
you could get crazy with the sprouts.
I can
But
always grow sprouts. I could always grow my sprouts, son. You know, I could.
you
Yo,
do
son,
that right
we
on your
need to get
counter.
like put on for some sprouts advertisement or something. Yo, if you out
Yeah, I
there
think
listening to
yeah.
us, which you probably aren't, but if somebody knows anybody from Sprouts, then tell them Main and Rants are big fans, and
We're big fans of sprouting.
it's part of our doomsday preparation.
Yeah, we are big into sprouting. So if anybody that has a company
Yeah,
affiliated
man.
with any type of sprouting,
Yeah, man.
hit us up. Let us
Yeah,
know. We will advertise for you.
let us know. Mm-hmm.
I will
And we
take
are not
pictures and
only do
video.
we we live this sprout thing.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
put sprouts on everything. I put
Yeah,
that on everything.
mounted
Remember
man,
that commercial?
he's sprinkling. Oh, Frank's Red Hot.
Yeah.
Frank's Red Hot.
We do
Yo,
the Frank's Red Hot,
I put those sprouts on everything.
everything. Yeah, I'll do a commercial like that. I
Yo,
put
you
sprouts on
sprinkling
anything.
sprouts on food like salt base, son. You know what I mean? Sprinkling the sprouts on everything, like.
I can't get my family to even try them. That's the funny thing. Like, I can't even get them to taste them.
Uh-huh. Which
Yeah,
is
my
weird
wife,
because
my
people will go,
kids.
like your family will go out and they'll eat a salad or they'll see some bean sprouts and they'll try in the restaurant, maybe or something. You bring it home, they
Maybe.
be like, nah, what's that? Nah, I'm good.
They could see them growing on their own counter in a jar that
it's
I
free
set
of
up.
chemicals. It's free of
Yeah,
sprays.
they know. Yeah, they're seeing it from
Nobody's
seed
picking
to
their
sprout.
nose in the back and touching your food. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, but they want nothing to do with it. They won't even taste them. Like I'm
maybe
like,
if you pour
okay,
some cheese on them, yo.
throw some cheese on it. Yeah.
One of my brothers is infamous for only eating broccoli with cheese on it. That's only
My kids used
vegetables
to
he
be
put
like
in.
that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my kids used to be like that. They would only eat broccoli if it had cheese on it.
Yeah.
But they kind of grew out of that. But yeah.
Yeah, man. So say the quiet part loud. I guess we've been saying the quiet part loud a little bit. You know what I'm saying? That's a good intro.
It wouldn't be us. It wouldn't be us without a tangent of some sort.
Yes. So I think is very appropriate for this show because maybe you have guessed or maybe you haven't guessed. I guess you can guess which side of this equation that Maine and I probably fall on. I guess you can take an educated guess.
Sure.
Maine, you would probably say is a introvert, so to speak, and I would probably be looked upon as an extrovert.
In general, yeah.
In general,
I think people could, and I think people would get that. Like if you spend enough time with us, or even if you've been listening to this podcast enough, you could probably kind of guess that.
Yeah, they said pick one, pick a side, any side. You'd probably pick me for the extrovert
if you had to make a bet.
Yeah, but here's the thing now. But here's the thing because now they have the third wheel in there, the ambivert, which we'll talk a little bit about. But
yeah, the ambivert. And this
too.
debate. There's debate, and we'll talk about that. But like, there's a debate over whether or not that really exists, or whether it's just like kind of like varying degrees of like introvert or extrovert, right? Because none of these are kind of a finite thing, right? And I think that's the mistake that people make. You kind of label a person an introvert or an extrovert, and then you think you can attribute all the qualities that you think that means to that person, and that's not always the case. Like most people fall in some sort of spectrum of introversion or extroversion, right? Like, so that's kind of the point that we'll probably we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, and it all depends on comfort level as well, so
yeah, exactly. Like there's so many variables to that. And the funny thing, like you and I talked about this in maybe the first episode, I think, or the first couple of episodes. We talked about how you could kind of tell what people are going to be from the time they're on the playground, right? Like from children kind of like find their niche if you allow it. Children kind of find what they're going to be if you observe them kind of in their natural habitat, so to speak, or you observe them on the playground, you kind of get a sense of their personality and their temperament, right? But like I said, I think we make these labels up to help us better understand, but at the same time, the labels don't always fit exactly, right? Like there's varying degrees of this stuff.
Right. So let's get into it with some definitions first. I wrote some definitions down today.
Sure, go for it.
All right, so we'll start with introvert. An introvert, the best definition I saw is a person who recharges their energy by spending time alone. Characteristics of an introvert: needs to retreat into solitude to recharge after social outings. Introverts tend to focus heavily on their inner thoughts, feelings, and ideas. They prefer deep, meaningful conversations and may prefer writing over speaking, which I thought that was very interesting. And introverts typically maintain small, tight-knit circle of close friends rather than a large network of acquaintances. And then we have some pros and cons. A few of the pros and cons are introverts are good listeners. They tend to think before they speak. They tend to be more empathetic, and they tend to be self-motivators. And some of the cons are introverts could be considered socially awkward, overthinkers. They can suffer from being anxious and nervousness, and they can be looked upon as unskilled at small talk. So those are introverts.
No, that's I feel attacked. I feel attacked. I don't know if I feel seen or if I feel attacked, but I feel something with this definition.
I
feel uneasy.
You feel a little anxious or nervous.
I
or
feel like whoa.
maybe a little awkward at the
Feel
moment.
exposed. Yeah.
You know. Now we go into extroverts. So we have extroverts because I wrote that down too. As a person who is energized by interacting with the outside world, social gatherings, and external stimulation. They're social and talkative. They enjoy meeting new people, often have a large circle of friends, and aren't afraid to strike up conversation with strangers. They're energized by others, by spending time alone. Also, I'm sorry, spending time alone can sometimes leave them feeling bored or depleted. They enjoy group settings and team projects, and that tends to charge their batteries, and they often prefer to think out loud by discussing problems with others rather than processing things. Some pros and cons of being an extrovert. Extroverts tend to be enthusiastic. They tend to be risk takers. They tend to be more charismatic and confident. And some of the cons is they have a need for attention. They don't think before they speak. I've certainly been guilty of that a few times. They can be overly risky, and they can seem disingenuous. So that's introverts and extroverts. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah, as a resident introvert, how do you feel about this, my man?
So like I said, like some of the things that you use to describe it with a definition, I feel like I said, like I feel kind of either seen or exposed or attacked, right? And I'm joking about that, of course. But yeah, some of these qualities that you described like are definitely things that I've probably been described as. The things that I would probably describe myself as when it comes to like, you know, a preference for like smaller groups, right? Smaller friend groups than having like large groups of friends or even being around large groups in general. Like I do have a tendency to prefer small group settings. When it comes to friends, like I do have a small group of people that I would say are my friends, even if we don't speak on a regular basis, or even if I haven't seen them in a while, you know, since I moved even out of the city, or out of New York rather. There's people that I haven't seen in a long time as a result of that, right? You know, so I definitely fit into that. I definitely sometimes describe myself as socially awkward, but like I said, like this is something that where the labels don't always fit exactly because, like you said before, like it really depends on the setting and the people I'm around. Someone once told me that I have quite a bit of discernment, right? Like because I had described myself as being socially awkward, and then someone else kind of corrected me, or at least like they disagreed, right? And they were like, you know, I don't find you to be socially awkward. I think you are discerning who to be social with, right? And I think that's part of the kind of the variance that exists, or like kind of this wide spectrum of like introvert versus extrovert. There's a spectrum and there's this like gray area that doesn't always get talked about, right? Because we like to label things, like I said, so we can understand them better. But I definitely like in general, like there's a lot of the things that you just mentioned that I do fall into, right? In terms of personality traits, I would say that most of them could be used to describe my social interactions, or the way I would prefer to interact, right? But we could talk. We're going to talk more about this because the idea is that like introverts, people think all these things about introverts, but there's a lot of people out there that are presenting as extroverts that you'd be surprised are actually introverts, right?
Yes.
It's just that they have to be extroverted because of what that means in today's society. They may be social depending on the situation, and what they need to gain from that, or what people might gain from them, but behind closed doors afterwards, they need to recharge. It actually drains them of their energy, and they have that same trait as an introvert is known to have, right? Of needing to be alone. So yeah, but what about you? Like as an extrovert, like how do you feel about that definition? Does that apply to you?
Yeah, it actually does for the most part. Like I'm the dude that speaks to strangers. Like my wife, when we walk out in the street, dogs, it's like she's more introverted. I'm super extroverted. I'm the dude that you can drop me off in a room full of strangers and I know everybody's name. Um I tended to be sometimes I tend to be the loudest voice in the room, and it's not even on purpose. Sometimes it's just who I am. I'm just very, but I think it also comes with my upbringing because I'm from a large, loud family. Just in
Sure.
general, that's the my upbringing. So I never, like I said before, I never feel like I'm in a room that I don't belong.
Sure.
But I do have introverted tendencies because of my line of work,
I see.
you know? Um, and when I think of you as an introvert, you are, but if people see you in our circle of friends, they wouldn't
Uh-huh.
think that at all. They think like you would be the life of the party. You know what I mean? Because you know what I'm
Right.
saying. You and I are usually the ones just going back and forth out of it, being loud and obnoxious, and telling
Yeah, sort of.
you know. So, but
Try not to be obnoxious, but okay.
yeah. But you could be obnoxious amongst friends. What's a little, you know? But I do get energized. I like to think of myself as like the ultimate team player, so to speak. I feel like I
Sure.
can adapt to whatever surroundings. I feel like I work best in a group. Uh, I'm
Sure.
not always the best self motivator. I've learned in time to self motivate, but I feel I thrive best in groups of people. That's why I like my gym bros. I like playing sports, group sports. But then again, I play a solitude sport as well. I play tennis, which is
Right.
army of one. So I,
Sure.
I feel like sometimes I dip my toe into the introverted pool, but I'm like 98, 97, 98%. I'm like 97, 98% extroverted. And I am
Extrovert.
a risk taker. Worked in customer service basically since I was 20 years old in some
Right.
shape or form, and that's what I feel I thrive well in. I do well in groups. I would tend to be the team leader in a lot of things, even in college on projects. When I was at work, I tended to be the team leader. Always moved up to some type of management position where I was in charge of a bunch of people. So I do feel like I'm an extrovert at the core, but because here's the caveat with me, because I spend so much time with people every
Right.
day. My line of work as a trainer, I'm in people's homes. I'm listening to people talk to me all the time.
Sure.
I do feel that sometimes I need to just totally decompress and just be quiet.
Right.
And I don't want to
Right.
pick up
Right.
the phone. I don't want to speak to things. And this is what I found is not rare amongst trainers, people in my profession, because
Sure.
we're working with people so close every day, and people are always asking us questions, and we're providing direction, and people are asking to be provided direction, and they're always talking to us about something. It could be sometimes sensory overload that
Yep.
I just want to
Yeah.
come home and do nothing, you
Right.
know? So that's what I feel. Let me ask you a question though. What do you think is your greatest strength at being an introvert? What do you think is your greatest strength? How do you think that works most in your favor?
I think one of the things that you listed in your definition about being self-motivated is
Mm-hmm.
probably something that's helped me quite a bit. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's exactly the greatest one, but that's the one that comes top of mind because um that's been required, right? Like that I be self-motivated, especially in my profession. Like I work in technology, right? And you would think like, of course, you work in a corporate environment, you have to work in teams, you have to collaborate. And that's true. But there comes a time in technology where you kind of have to go off on your own and really kind of do the deep work of study and practice
Mm-hmm.
and come back to the group with the fruits of that, so to speak, right? Like, so anybody that's in technology, especially like as you reach like higher levels in your career, the expectation is that you know quite a bit of information, and it's not something you could do in a group setting. It's not something you could collaborate on.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you go and you kind of sharpen your tools, and then you go back to the group like, hey, here's what I have, and here's what I know, and here's how I can be of value to the group,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think the whole aspect of being self motivated and not feeling uncomfortable with long periods of having to just do the deep work by myself and not having anybody to depend on, not having anybody to collaborate with. Um, is a strength, right? And I can certainly collaborate, and I have to, right? It's funny you ask it in that way, and talking about my job, not to get off on too much of a tangent there, but like
But
I was
before,
thinking
hold on,
about
I'm
the
sorry, not to
yeah, go
cut
ahead.
you off real quick, but
Yeah,
it's
go.
interesting that you would say that because I'm gonna go off a line later on of the
Yeah,
careers, but
go.
I looked
Yeah.
up what's the number one career for introvert, and number one is technology and IT. So go ahead.
So that's perfect, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's perfect
Mm-hmm.
for what I was about to say, because when I coming out of school, like I didn't go to school for technology, right? I went to school for like basically political science, and I thought I was gonna go to law school and all that stuff, but that's a whole another story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wound up going to I think we told this story before. I wound up going to Chubb Institute and
Mm-hmm.
getting some education in IT. I wound up getting a job eventually at like a service desk type of job, and then the rest is history, right? But the point is that I thought that getting a job in IT will be good for me because I thought that I would just be working with computers and I would never have to talk to a human being. And I know that sounds crazy. I know that somebody's listening to this like, that sounds insane.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really my thought process, that maybe that if I get into technology, I'll be working on computers and I never have to talk to any people. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And the funny thing about that is that exactly the opposite has happened throughout my whole career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wound up at a service desk at first, where all you're doing all day is taking calls on people's computer problems and trying to help them over the phone. So you're talking all day long, and that
Yes.
lasted for a couple of years, right? And then the next thing I thought, okay, like I get into like tech support, and I'm walking around to people's desks. So now I'm not on the phone. I'm in person
Yeah.
helping people with their technology problems. So now I have to have like a little more, but when I would go off and go by myself and be by myself when I could. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, if I was going to help somebody with their technology problems, this is the point at which I have to go to their desk and talk to them. And sometimes it went well, and sometimes it's like you got a frustrated person or whatever the case may be. But now you're in front of them and you're in person with them. So you have to be very your emotional intelligence has to be a little bit more keen,
Yeah.
to say the least, right? Then the next thing I go on to be like an engineer, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm an engineer now. I don't have to talk to any people. But no, no, no. What- You still have to collect requirements for people. You still got to work together in project teams. You
Mm-hmm.
still got to work with project managers and stakeholders. You have to explain things. You have to present on things. Like you have to present before the project, you got to present after the project. So the level of collaboration and talking to people and having to come outside your shell, for me, has only intensified with as I progressed in my career, right? So I say all that to say, like, it wound up having the opposite effect. Like, me getting an IT job
Mm-hmm.
never meant that I thought I was gonna be working in some data center somewhere,
Yeah.
racking servers or something, and just like be in a cold data center by myself the whole time. And I've only been in a data center, um I would say, like, a lot of times, but like way fewer times than I thought. Like I
Yeah.
thought I was gonna spend my whole career working at a data center, and it wasn't even close to what I was thinking.
You probably spent like a month's worth in a data center over 20
If
years.
yeah, if I had yeah, if I had
Yeah.
to count it all, like if I had to count it
Yeah.
and try to figure out the percentage of time that
Yeah.
I've spent interacting with people directly, and the time that I actually spent in a data center just racking servers or just doing some other data center type of work, it's a fraction. It's a
Mm-hmm.
it's a small fraction. So it just didn't work out that way. But I mean, the short answer to your question though is that my ability to kind of to 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 be by myself has been why I've had any success that I've had in
Mm.
IT, because there are those times where you have to go off by yourself and put in the work, kind of burn that midnight oil by yourself, and then you come back and you could be of some value to a team.
I feel like it works to my advantage. Like I found myself in rooms with people that I'm like, how did I get here, son? Just because I've said hello to them on the street or in the gym or on a tennis court or on a basketball court.
Uh,
Um, I've had long conversations with like homeless people
right.
about here's the crazy thing too. At times they're like drawn to me too. Like people
Hmm.
just stop and just look at me and just come and have conversations. They tell me their life story. They tell me everything. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Just I'm a random stranger, and they just say you have that type of face, or you just look like you want to listen. And sometimes I do because I always like a good story.
Sure.
But I've been in just trying to eat lunch down in the city, and somebody just sits on a park bench next to me and tells me their entire life story, man. A lot of people don't believe me, and I had to tape this guy who was telling me he was delivering wine and he was mad, and he told me his whole story, like from beginning to end, just sitting there telling me. And I asked, I was like, "Yo, do you mind if I tape this? Because nobody's gonna believe me when they say this." And this dude just randomly walked up to me and talking on my lunch break. So I think my ability to be open to new experiences
Sure.
and just to not be afraid, like the cynical, like I said, I'll just walk in the room and and I'll know everybody's name by the time I walk out. My parents
Right.
told me tell a story of when they sent me to basketball camp, and I went for a week up in Jersey. And then they went to pick me up, they were like, "Oh my gosh, all these kids, how are we gonna know where to find Rance?" And they said they just go to the desk and they say, "Yeah, we're looking for Rance." And they was like, "Rance, yeah, yeah." Everybody was like, "I know where he is. I know Rance. I know Rance. I know Rance. I'll bring him to you. I'll bring him to you." So that's how it works in my advantage. But what I feel how it works to disadvantage to me is that
Mm.
people always expect for me to be on. I can't have a bad day sometimes. Like I can't shut off. I can't just be angry. I can't be upset. And people like, "Yo, what's wrong with you, man? What's wrong with you
Right.
today?" It's almost like they're expecting me to be happy, expecting me to be the one that's always going to bring the liveliness
Right.
to the room, to have a joke or to have a brighter side of things. And sometimes it's not like that. Like I'm married, I got 3 kids, I got and things happening all the time. But that 1%, if I walk out the house and I'm not smiling and joking and
Yeah.
laughing, it's like,
Can't be
yo,
tired. Can't have a bad
yeah, it's
day.
like I can't have a bad day.
Yeah.
And I said that to a friend of mine one time, and
Right.
and he was just like, "Yo, what's wrong with you, man? What's eating you?" I was like, "Yo, I can't have one bad day, dogs."
Right.
So I feel
And
that's
you'd
how it
be
works to my detriment.
and you'd be surprised like how many people require that energy from you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
once they get used to that, like if you have that extroverted quality, sometimes the people around you kind of feed off that energy. Not in a bad way. I don't mean to say like
yeah,
feed off of you in a bad way, but sometimes people are expecting that from you because it's boosting them up, right? Like
yeah.
they're getting something out of it. Like you're giving them that, like you're just giving them that vibe and that energy that sometimes keeps, you never know how much that's helping somebody else, right? But
Mhm,
a couple of things that you said that I wanted to touch on before I forget.
mhm.
Um, you said about your wife, like when you're with your wife, she tends to be the introvert in the relationship, and you're more outgoing. You're more the one to stop and have conversations with people and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I found that really that resonates with me because my wife is the same way, right? Like
Mhm.
she's the extrovert in the relationship, and some people say like opposites attract, and I don't know, like I don't have any data
Yeah.
on this, right? But it does resonate with me because I guess opposites do attract, like from like observation. Again, I don't have any real hard data on this, no numbers,
Mhm.
but
We got
it's just
life
funny
data.
because yeah, that I have just the
Personal life
just a
data.
just
Mhm,
a life experience of like,
mhm,
my wife tends to be the one that stops and speaks to people. She tends to be the person that knows everybody in the room,
mhm.
before she leaves the room. She's the person that if we go to a party or go to a function or we go out with some people, she's the one that everybody knows and they kind of gravitate to her, and she's doing the talking. Like she's a leader.
Mhm.
She's been in leadership positions since I've known her, in different organizations and even at work, where she tends to be the one that's using kind of the extrovert superpower, like I call it sometimes,
Yeah.
as like a tool that really helps her navigate any room. The other thing I was gonna say is that you were saying how people kind of just gravitate towards you, like you could be just sitting there minding your business. And
Mhm.
the interesting thing about me is that over the years, like since I've been a kid, basically, certain people will find me and do that. And I find that interesting that you said that because that also resonates with me, right? Because although I'm not as like outgoing, I'm not quick to start the conversation, but I found out in my life that for some reason that some people just find me, right? Like, and they won't let me be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that they're like bothering me or disturbing me or anything, but they won't just let it pass on like, okay, he's quiet, so I'm gonna leave them alone. A lot of people will do that, right? Like, and that goes to like some sort of like I don't know if it's a misconception or not, but like some people kind of like we said before, like they make assumptions based on a label, like or they'll just label you to make it easy. Oh, he's an introvert, or he's just quiet, or he doesn't want to be bothered. But then I find that there's some people that I have like these really long, deep conversations with that, and it's not because we've known each other for so long or anything like that. It's just because they like kind of gravitated to me for some reason. And like I said, they wind up telling me their whole story, or we'll just wind up talking for hours. Like there's been times where I've talked to strangers for long periods of time, and just because they sparked the conversation with me, and we just so happen to just vibe, you know. So yeah, those are the things that kind of it kind of resonate, man. The whole thing with your spouse and kind of that whole opposites attract type of effect. And then the fact that, you know, you were saying that people kind of find you and they you just have that effect on people. But I find that I have that effect on people too, just probably not as many, not as many people, right? Because not as many people are gonna kind of make that first move with a person that they feel is not like open to it, right? Because I don't think I present as a person that's open to that, right? So I always find it interesting.
That's the similarities between the two, and because they may come to me just because they just want their story to be heard,
Maybe,
you know,
maybe.
and they may come to you because you just look like a personal lockbox, emotional lockbox. You know what I
Maybe,
mean?
yeah,
Like, yo,
yeah.
this dude ain't never
That's
gonna say
actually
nothing. Yeah, he ain't gonna say nothing because he don't talk
that's
to nobody.
profound. That's
Yeah, you know what I'm
profound.
saying? Like,
That's
you're the
profound.
emotional lockbox, and I'm just the person that
Yeah.
they want somebody to know. They don't even care. They come to me because they don't care who hears it. They come to you
That could be
because
part
they
of it.
don't want anybody to hear it, but they need somebody. And this goes down to the career. So this kind of segues in.
True.
Introverted careers, technology, I found is the most popular, finance and numbers, um, content and creativity, and then specialized services such as librarians, lab technicians, and therapists. And therapists because introverts are more prone to have empathy and to be better listeners.
Right.
So you're like a therapist. You know what I mean?
And and it's interesting you say it in that way because I find that those people that do find me, it winds up being like a therapy session. And I don't mean to say that it's not reciprocal, right? Because it is reciprocal. Because sometimes those people will find me, and I wind up talking more than I normally would too, right? And I find that I walk away with like, wow, I didn't even know I needed that. You know what I mean? There's been people that have done that with me where I'm like, wow, maybe I needed to talk today, and I don't know how this winds up happening. And you know how some people say like there's no such thing as a coincidence. Um, and sometimes it's just this energy happens like where I wind up having a conversation with somebody I probably wouldn't have if not for the timing of it. I feel like just a freak accident. But when I walk away from it, I'm like, wow, that was good for me, and it was therapeutic for me, not only for that person. So a lot of times it winds up being reciprocal, but there are some times where you're right. Like I do feel like some people are like, oh, it's a lockbox, or here's a confidant that I could I could confide in this person, and I know they're not gonna judge it or run off and tell everybody because they're just kind of in their own world most of the time. Maybe they're observing me as
Lane don't bump his gums, yo. I'm telling him.
yeah. It could be that people observe me and they're like, you know, this guy's he's not gonna tell anybody.
Yeah. So those are the main careers for the top careers for introvert. Extrovert, we have
Yeah.
business and sales,
Mm,
healthcare,
right.
communications, and community services such as event planners, teachers, and lawyers. So all the like social based, those are all like the social based careers and opportunities out that each of the verts the verts
The
the
verts.
verts gravitate towards. And it's funny because when it says that we find extroverts tend to find themselves to be bored easily. If I don't have noise, sometimes my mind wanders. My mind tends to wander in silence. Yeah, just last week I was talking about the quiet, how the city sounds of New York, that's my white
Yeah,
noise, where
yeah.
the quiet sounds of the South is like nails on a chalkboard to me. I tend to work best and think best amongst chaos. Silence
Interesting.
takes a little bit more. I can hone in, when there's loud noises around. Like the music will tone a tone out. It'll be very loud and I won't hear anything but my thoughts. But I can't always just hear my thoughts when there's nothing going on around. So my thoughts can't always be the
Interesting.
loudest. Yeah, 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 man.
Yeah,
So,
that's very interesting, man. Like
mm-hmm.
yeah, like
Yeah,
and you're making me think about like how I feel when I'm actually by myself, like what is happening in my mind, right? And I feel like
yeah,
I honestly feel like I do some of my best thinking when I have time by myself, right? Like
yeah.
when it is the most quiet, that's when I could get the most thinking done. And it's kind of led me to like be able to read books and
Mm-hmm.
be able to kind of come up with ideas and just do some pretty interesting things in my life because I've had the time and I take the time intentionally to be by myself and to be quiet or to study to till I until I understand certain things, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely understand, man, because like I said, my wife is a person that needs to be around people. She needs to talk. And I think in saying that, it just leads me to also thinking about the fact that there's kind of some misconceptions about both of these, like both of these verts, like you said, the
Mm-hmm. The
introvert.
verts.
We should call this Levert. Like, no, no, let me stop. Levert. No, but I think there's some misconceptions, man. Like I think people may assume that an introvert doesn't like people because I've heard that. Even my wife has said it a couple of times. I don't know if she remembers this, but there's been times where she said it to other people, like that I don't like people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of like hits me hard because that's not the case, right? Like it's not that I don't like people, not at all. It's just that like there's a certain level of discernment and there's a certain level of me understanding myself and knowing that there's certain people that are not going to get anything out of talking to me, right?
Yeah.
And I could kind of read that with just a few interactions. There's certain people that won't get anything out of me, like I said, like, and it's hard for me to explain that exactly, but I could kind of read that, and then I don't see the value in spending too much time with that person, to be honest with you. And then there's certain people that, like you said, like if you see me with a group of our friends, that's when I'm kind of feeling that energy and I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
gaining energy from that. I
Mm-hmm.
do feel safe and I do feel like, I could be myself and I could joke around and all that stuff, right? And I do feel like those people might get something out of the energy that I'm bringing to the table too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's reciprocal in that way. So it's never that I don't like people, and I think a lot of introverts may go through this, that people assume that they don't like people, but it's just that they feel more comfortable in small groups
Mm-hmm.
than in a big large party. And part of that is I think also like I've over the years it's taken me time to understand myself in this way
Mm-hmm.
because in a large group I can't really possibly get to know 50 people in a room. And if I'm going to spend time with people, I want to get to know them. I want to talk. I want to know
Yeah.
what they're thinking. And I find it hard and I get frustrated a little bit and I get overwhelmed when there's so many people in a room and I can't really gauge whether or not we're gonna vibe or
Yeah.
talk at all. That's when it gets awkward. That's when I get awkward. Like when
It's
it's
almost
like a
like
large group.
an overstimulus, so to
It's
speak.
yeah,
Yeah.
some part of it is overstimulus, and then some part of it is I know that I can't possibly have any meaningful conversation
Yeah.
if there's 100 people in this room. I kind of get over that by I'll pick a person or I'll
Mm-hmm.
pick like a couple of people and I'll start to try to have that conversation and maybe I'll kind of hold on to that person as long as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know if that's going to backfire because they need to be working the room too, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons why I really never like big parties or anything like that. I really much rather be in kind of a more intimate setting or a small group. Not that I won't go to a party with big people, with, a lot of
Yeah.
people, but if I had my choice, I would say that I'd rather be in a small group where I could actually kind of interact and get to know the person or a small group of people, and we can have a meaningful conversation.
Yeah. I like large groups, but I like small groups within the large group. So I like to know a lot of people, but I have pockets of friends and I may
Mhm.
know, for instance, I may know about 50 tennis players, right? But I'm only about 10 of them or maybe like 8 to 10 of them I spend a lot of time with that actually know me, may know my family,
Right.
may know what I do for a living or what, you know what I mean? My kids' names and such, so forth and so on. But I'll know a lot of guys. Um, so I guess that's kind of like the ambivert, when the ambivert comes into play, which we'll talk about in
But I think, like, now that you say that, I think there's also the misconceptions of what an extrovert means too, right? Like, because people
yeah.
have these labels,
Mhm.
and you keep, you said ambivert a couple of times, right? And like I said, there's kind of a debate over whether or not that's really a thing. And I think it is.
Yeah.
I lean towards it is a thing, because there's people, because that's how we label people that are kind of in between, right? And that
Yeah.
makes it easy for us to kind of like have these discussions, right? Because I hate the idea of labeling, but sometimes it's the only way to have a meaningful discussion that people can kind of grasp onto and
Mhm.
understand. But I feel like there's a misconception. Like I said, there's misconception of introverts, but there's also a misconception of extroverts, that they always need to be around a lot of people, that they
Yeah.
always want to be around a lot of people, that they have in these same kind of deep relationships with 50 to 100 people,
Mhm.
when maybe they're having the same type of real deep friendships with only a handful of people, and everybody else they just kind of know as associates. They're cool with them. They
Yes.
might be really cool. They might be loved by these people, but
Mhm.
really in their minds they only have, like you said, like a handful of people that they're really bringing into their inner world, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the misconceptions about extroverts, is that they're just kind of spreading this like disingenuous feeling around to everybody they can, when
Yeah.
it's really not. That's really not the intention, at least from what I've
Yeah.
observed. Like, that's never the intention. They may get energy from large groups, but
Mhm.
in general, when they're trying to really have impactful friendships and relationships, they're doing it with a small group.
Yeah.
And at least that's been my observation. So I think that's a misconception
Yeah.
about extroverts that I've observed.
Yeah, and to go into like the disingenuous, it may feel disingenuous to some people, but it may
Hmm.
also be that extroverted person just trying to make you feel like you belong as well. Like not wanted, like
Right,
sort of like no man left behind. But it's like, yo, I
right.
can't spend the same amount of time with everybody here, but just know like I see you dogs. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I
Yes,
see you over there.
and
You
it's
know what I mean? Yeah.
and that is that's a form of empathy, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's something that is empathetic, that is not really attributed to an extrovert personality. Like you were saying before, when you give the definition, that sort of empathy is really attributed to introverts more so than extroverts. But it's a form of empathy to say, like, okay, I can't give everybody the same amount of energy and time and all that stuff, but I do see you. I want to make sure you know that you belong, you're welcome. If you're in a group, especially if you're hosting something or if you're the leader, an extrovert does have that tendency, if they're self-aware, if they have that type of emotional intelligence, they
Mm-hmm.
do make sure that everybody is kind of like checked in on, like, hey, you're right, you good.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Yeah.
make sure that, if you need anything, I'm here. They make sure
Yeah.
that that message comes across, and they try their best to make sure that that message is received, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I found, like, when I observe extroverts, because I have a few managers and like at my job, that you could tell that they're extroverts. You can't tell. I can't really say whether or not they're real extroverts or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I could tell, like, even as extroverts, or even as presenting as extroverts, because they're in a leadership role, that they're doing that, and they have to kind of spread that out, because of the number of people that they're leading, and the number of people that they're expected to interact with. They kind of have to spread that love, but you could tell that there's a genuine caring, and that they're like, hey, I want to make sure you're good, and they want that message to be received, that, hey, if you need anything, I'm here. And I've seen them display that and actually live up to it. So you're right. Disingenuous is probably a word that gets thrown around too, because it's in the
Yeah.
definitions. But I think it's another one of those misinterpretations or misconceptions about extroverts too, that they're being disingenuous. But really, what they're trying to do is make everybody feel seen and included, and it's coming from a real place, right? A real place of empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I looked at some other numbers and they said extroverts make up 50 to 75% of the population, while introverts 25%. And with
Right.
54% of men leaning towards introverts and 52% of women leaning towards extroverts.
That's interesting. That's interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah,
almost like
that's
50-50 split on both ends, so to speak.
yeah.
I think men in general is just like, yo, most men really don't want much. We just want what we want, and just to be left alone a lot of times. To be left alone in our own thoughts, because sometimes it goes a lot into being like a man out in the world and having responsibilities. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
want to decompress and just go
Right.
sit in a corner somewhere.
This overlaps with some conversations that we had before about how men, and we talk about Gen X men, but I feel like this could apply to a lot of men and throughout the generations, right? Like that, like you said, we're kind of simple, and there's a lot going on, and men are not as quick to kind of express their feelings all the time. So there's introvert traits that men show because, like, if you observe a man, you're going to see a lot of introverted traits because of the fact that men are not as quick to kind of express their emotions or confide in people that, hey, something's happening here, or I need XYZ, or this is what I want from you, and all that stuff, right? We're not as quick to have the conversations about what's going on internally. So that presents as introverted, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting overlap of like just kind of being a man and how men are kind of stereotyped into some of these traits.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird because we're the flip side. You and I and our wives, we're basically the flip. We're in reverse. Like
right.
I'm the extrovert, she would be considered introvert. You're the introvert, and
Yeah.
your wife would be considered the extrovert. So
Yeah. So my wife is definitely an
it's
extrovert.
all yeah.
She actually displays all of those traits of an extrovert. I mean, not any of the negative stuff, but like none of the stereotypical stuff would I attribute to her. Like she's definitely not disingenuous when she's talking to you. Like she's really serious about the conversation. She really is genuine in making sure that you know that you have her attention at that time, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of it, in terms of like getting energy from being around groups of people,
Yeah.
feeling good about her, like her energy that she also gives to people, right? Like she doesn't just take energy, but she actually is giving energy out. She's really about
It's
that
just
life.
her. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
she
my wife,
really.
she'd rather just be, give her a book and sit in the corner. There's many a times I've come home and the house has been dark and she's just been
Wow.
somewhere in the corner, like just reading with the lamp on, just quiet. Nothing's on, no
Yeah.
TV, no radio, nothing is on, just reading, just scaring the bejesus out of me, son. Like, you know what I mean? Like you think it's a burglar in the house or something. She's so quiet. But here's a funny thing too. Like talking
Yeah.
about books, I find my favorite author is Walter Mosley. That's my favorite author.
Yeah, yeah. Is that
That's
that's Devil in a
Devil in a
Blue
Blue
Dress, right?
Dress. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my
yeah.
favorite author. That's my
The
favorite
Easy
author.
Easy Rollins
That's
Easy
right.
Rollins series.
So I find that reading. Also, I tend to be a little hyperactive. Maybe you guys have picked up on. I tend to be a little hyperactive.
Yeah.
So it's hard
Who
for
would have
me
thought?
sometimes to sit down and just lock in on a book. But the
Sure.
books and the authors that I do best with are the most descriptive authors. So if you can put me in a room and I can visualize everything that's going on in that room, like almost like when you sit and the room is circling around you and you see, like that's when I'm really invested in a book. Like I won't put it down. But
Sure.
every now and then, if a book is, I like to call it too quiet. If a book is too quiet, I'll finish it, but I'll put it down. And I'll finish it. I'll put it down, but I won't be in it as immersed in it. But if you're showing
Sure.
me everything that's happening down to like the white walls of the tires and the street signs, you know what I mean? Very
Yeah, I know
descriptive.
what you
I'm
mean.
all in, bro. I'm all in. Like I'll sit there and I'll finish a book in like a day or two. You know,
Right,
it's easy.
right.
So
Yeah, that makes sense, man. Like there's authors that are very visual in their descriptions, and like that definitely
mhm.
helps because when you're reading, a lot of it is like you doing the mental work, right? Like
Yeah,
reading and taking the time to read off the written word on the page
yeah, man.
is a lot of, like, people don't understand, like it's not passive, right? It's very active,
Yeah.
it takes a lot from you, right? In
Mhm.
terms of like your imagination, your ability to reconstruct what you're reading off the
Yeah.
page, right? So people kind of take that for granted, I should say, right?
Mhm.
So what you're describing makes a lot of sense. Like if somebody can do a good job of being descriptive and make it visual for you,
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier for your brain to kind of like do that work and
Yeah.
then present it to you in a way that keeps you engaged, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because there's some like, if I read documentaries or just like science-based stuff. Well, I love science, so I don't have as much. I'm really love science, so that's not as
Hmm.
much as a problem. But history, and
Mm,
like things that's just someone is just like they're talking, and they're telling you like the facts and stuff, my mind just tends to wander, and I tend to like I have to like paint scenarios in my mind of it. One of the hardest books I've ever read was the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. I don't know if you've read that. I'm
I
sure you
never,
read it.
I no, I haven't.
Bro,
Actually, I
that's
haven't.
one of the hardest books that I have ever read, bro. It took me like months to read this book. To me, it was just so boring. But you give me a good detective novel, bro?
But that's an interesting, that's an interesting kind of difference you bring up too, because with me, I've been finding, especially lately, I've been talking to people that read, and some people know that I read and I have a collection of books that I'm trying to get through, you know. But the people that I know that read, I'm finding that more and more of them, they lean towards fiction, right?
Yeah.
And I find it hard to read fiction now, right? Like, because I don't know what it is, man. It's like I feel like I don't have time for fiction. Like I'll try. Like there's been a couple of books that have been recommended to me. I know they're good and they're interesting topics and all that stuff, but I feel like I don't have the time to read fiction and get to the nonfiction books that I need to read. Right? Like I don't know why. I feel like time is running out somehow when I start to read. I'm like, wow, I don't know if I could devote the time that it takes to finish this fiction. Right? And like you said, like it's something that has to keep your interest too, right? Like, and for you, you're saying that the more descriptive and visual the author is, that's the way to keep you engaged and keep your interest, right? For me, I can read a history book more so than I could read like nowadays. I don't think I could read a Ezekiel Rowland story, right? I can't read a Walter Mosley book right now, right? Because just the state of mind I'm in. And there was a time when I could. I loved fiction at one. And even going like the school we went to, like you had to read all this fiction, all the classic type of books. There was a lot of fiction involved, right? And some of that fiction had a lot of kind of allegory and had lessons to be learned and all that stuff, and a lot of comparisons to like actual life, right? But now I'm finding, like I said, like I tend towards nonfiction because I just feel like it's important that I use the little bit of time I have in that way. I want to get something like some new skill or something I can use in my life. And not saying that fiction doesn't give you that. Like
No,
I
you
know,
want that tangible, something tangible.
I need it immediately.
And
I need the immediate.
I want an escape. I want an escape.
Yes,
you want tangibility, and I want escapism. So that's the
difference.
That's
a perfect way to say it. That's a perfect way to say it. And I think that's what people are getting out of it. Like the same reason that people watch movies or watch TV, I think sometimes that's the reason why they're gravitating towards the books that they are, because they like this type of storytelling, right? Whereas I'm gravitating more towards nonfiction, because I do feel like at this point in my life I need like that tangible thing, like whatever it is I'm going to get out of this book. That's what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for something very specific when I pick up a book title, and I need to get that as fast as I can. And get out of there. Give me the tool and let me run, and get to the next one. But yeah, that's an interesting difference, man. Because the reason I say that is because I'm wondering if that is like an introvert and extrovert thing. Like if we like interviewed like 50 extroverts and then 50 introverts, I wonder what their book preference would be,
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one.
So would you rather, like I love documentaries, but I don't want to read them. I want to watch them. I want to watch them.
Let me see. Like when I think about it, like,
do you want to watch fiction?
I'd rather read.
You'd rather read and watch?
I'd rather watch. I watch fiction.
Yeah,
right?
And you prefer to read documentaries.
I read like nonfiction. Like so you could call it a documentary, but like I know what you mean. But like, when it comes to fiction, I'd rather watch a movie or something on television.
Yeah.
Because I can get into that. Right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to reading, I much prefer nonfiction. That's a funny thing. Like I said, like it would be interesting, like to interview like a bunch of extroverts and the same number of introverts, and ask them like what their preference is in terms of like what they like to read and what type of just consumption of media, basically. Like what is it that you would prefer? That would be an interesting little experiment, actually.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has anything to do with if that there's some crossover there.
Yeah. Speaking of books, you have a book for us?
I do have a book for us.
Oh, there you go.
So this book, if everybody can see, and for those of you just listening to this, the book is called Quiet. And the subtext of it is the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. And the author is Susan Cain. This book helped me a lot to understand myself a bit better, to understand the people around me. And though it's called Quiet and the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking, it actually describes extroverts as well, right? Because if you're going to describe something, you kind of, like we said, like we're using labels. And although like I'm not the biggest fan of labels, if you're going to use labels, you got to use their opposite as well to sometimes to give a decent explanation, right? So Susan Cain does a really good job of kind of tracking society's kind of thinking of when it comes to people. And she says that in the 19th century that there was a big level of importance placed on your character, right? Because people didn't live as much in like big buildings and cities. People had a tendency to live in rural areas and live close to each other, and then, like the communities were more tight knit in the 19th century, right? Where it was more important, like kind of how you worked, if you worked hard, or if you treated your family well, or maybe if you went to church, or people would observe you based on your actions, not so much based on your personality. And she said what happened over the years is that as people kind of migrated into cities and people became more dispersed, there weren't as many tight knit communities. It became important for you to express yourself because people couldn't observe your behaviors as much, right? So if you're looking for a job, you weren't looking for a job in your small town anymore. You're looking for a job in a big city where nobody knows you, right? So it became more important how you presented. And for better or worse, presentation became more important than your internal character over the years. And she said some of the ways that manifests itself is that society just placed more importance on how you looked and how you spoke. She said there was a time where speaking well was even something that was kind of exotic to people. Like, only lawyers and, CEOs had to speak well. But over the years, like, I think Dale Carnegie is a good example of this. Like, she tells a story about how Dale Carnegie started a school just teaching people how to speak. He figured out that public speaking was necessary. It would kind of get you over in every aspect of your life, like in all business dealings. And especially as, like I said, it became more important how you present than your actual character, because people don't really know your character. It's just too many people after a while for everybody to get to know you, right? Like, so what you had to do was be able to present right away. You had to be able to get your message across right away, and you had to be able to do it better than your competition, right? And that became the important thing, right? Presentation over character was a big thing. One of the misconceptions she describes is about leadership, right? Especially in the business setting, there's kind of a great deal of value on the person that's speaking loudest or speaking the most, right? There's an assumption that if you speak up and that if you're the loudest, that you're right, that you're correct. And we make this assumption that maybe it's an ancient thing that we think that the loudest person is the strongest, or we think the first person to speak up is the leader, right? And she's saying that that's not always the case. And that it's very important that we give the quiet person and the introvert space to kind of express themselves. Even if they're quiet in a meeting, you can't assume that they have nothing to contribute. You can't assume that they're not a leader. You can't assume that they're not thinking and that they're just aloof, which is a lot of the assumptions that people make about introverted people. She's saying that some of the greatest ideas are coming from people that have had the time to sit with those ideas and be quiet, to be by themselves, or to just give it more consideration and to be empathetic and all these other things. Like like introverts have a tendency to think longer before they speak, right? Because you even describe like extroverts might just think without speaking. I mean, speak without thinking rather.
They blurt out something crazy.
They may blurt out something, right? And people have this tendency to lean towards them as the leader or as the person that's the go-getter and all these other stereotypes that we give each other, right? But she says in leadership roles, you have to kind of take a little more time to get to know the introvert, because they may be the one that's just thought about problems deeper, or thought about ideas more, right? And once they bring it to the table, you're like, oh wow, why didn't you say that before? And you're like, well, because all the loud people were in the room. Sometimes the loud person like sucks all the air out of the room, or people don't listen as much because you're saying it in a more thoughtful, maybe even a quieter way, right?
Yeah.
But but she also talks about which I think is extremely important, that introverts have to learn to kind of stretch themselves. She talks about kind of the rubber band effect or the rubber band. I forget exactly how she says it, but there's a necessity for introverts to stretch themselves and to understand that with emotional intelligence and situational awareness has to come like the responsibility of knowing that sometimes you got to step outside your box and you got to like come out of your shell when it's important to do so. And that's your responsibility, because society is not exactly going to change or bend to your will. You have to like know when the situation calls for you to be something different than you are.
There's a saying that the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah.
But as somebody once told me, there's a reason why that wheel is squeaky.
That's a good one. I never heard that before. I never heard that second part before.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, there's a reason why that wheel's squeaky, man, because it's troublesome.
Right.
So
There's something
people,
wrong.
we tend to give the most attention to the thing that's the most troublesome. Whereas, like if you go into the classroom, you have the class clown who makes the noise and the teacher gives it, they get the most attention because they garner the most attention. And then you have the straight A student that's in the back, minding their business, just doing their work. Not causing any trouble, but people also assume like, oh, they'll be okay, they're fine. The straight, they'll be fine, they're okay. I gotta help this dude right here who's standing on the table, is cracking bad jokes and doing stupid stuff. And sometimes it's to the A student or the quiet student's detriment. You know, so they have to learn to. My wife uses this word a lot: advocate for themselves.
Right.
You know, you have to learn how to advocate. But yeah, man, you heard it here first, man. Well, you heard it here first from me, but second from someone else. There's a reason why that wheel squeaks, man.
Yeah, that's a good one. I honestly, yeah, like that's a good one. I like it. Like I'm gonna keep that in mind, because I never thought of it quite that way. But you're right, the squeaky wheel does get the grease, and people do need to learn not only to advocate for themselves, but if you're aware of these things, you need to reach out and advocate for those people too. Like you need to be maybe you need to be the person that is like reaching out and like, hey, I see that straight A student, or I see that quiet person. I know they have good ideas. I've spoke to them on the side, and somebody needs to kind of give them a nudge and be like, hey, or like shine a little light on them and be like, hey, you know, this person has great ideas, or this person has something to contribute, and kind of give them a push to the front sometimes. But like we were saying, like sometimes it's up to the introvert to be situationally aware, to have the emotional intelligence, and to take responsibility that society's not going to bend to your personality. They reward like kind of the perception of the strong leader that speaks up and puts on a show, right? The showman. The showman, you know, we can see that in our own society, in the United States right now, that a showman kind of sometimes garners more respect than the person with the expertise. It's a harsh lesson, but sometimes that's a lesson we all have to learn, that there has to be a little bit of showmanship, even if you have the expertise, if you have the goods, that's great. But there has to be a little bit of showmanship as well, because that's what people kind of naturally gravitate to, and that's what's going to make people listen to you.
Yo, I haven't heard that in a long time. That's a good 80s. You said you got the goods. That's some old 80s.
I got that from Fife, from Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, you got the goods.
I always think of him like when that you know, when you got the goods. Yeah, I think of Fife from Tribe Called Quest. Like, hun, you got the goods, like Madeline Wood.
I was watching a movie last week, and it was you ever seen What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Yes.
I said Johnny Gill. That's a whole different.
No, Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio, young Leonardo
DiCaprio,
and he played that part, man. Like
to a T, son.
Man,
to a T. That was.
I didn't know he was acting.
That might have been his that was his role that put him on the map, I think.
I didn't know he was acting. I saw that movie before. You know, obviously, like he's a young Leonardo, like he wasn't really super famous then.
Yeah, man.
So when I saw that movie, I saw it like on television somehow, or maybe I saw it on VHS or something. Like, but when I saw the movie, I didn't know Leonardo DiCaprio was acting.
Yeah, he played an autism. Yeah,
I thought that
kid with autism. He played a kid with autism.
But he played it so well. Like don't get me wrong. I knew, of course, there's a movie. This person is acting, but I thought it was a person with special needs acting.
Yeah, man.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, He played
Yeah, he fooled
like
me.
Corky from Life Goes On.
Yes.
Remember, like Corky from
Yes.
Life Goes On. You know,
That's
you
what I
thought he
thought
was
was
an
going on
actual
there.
physically
Yes.
disabled, a mentally challenged actor. Yeah, he
Yes,
did
that's
that.
what I thought was going on there, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Wow!" When I found out later that it wasn't the case, I'm like, "Wow, this guy's going places."
yeah, man,
Like,
he was good. But in that
gotta look out
movie,
for him.
Yeah, Johnny Depp plays like this dude Gilbert Grape, and he's like the
Yeah,
super
yeah,
introvert, son. He's like taking care of his family. He got
yeah.
all this stuff going on, and his family is broken, bro. He
That's
has
a
all of this
sad
stuff.
movie
That's
too.
a sad movie, but it's good, but it's
That's a,
sad, man.
yeah.
You
It's
know?
almost like to me that movie was almost in the same. It's kind of parallel to Precious. Like I
Oh, I
like
didn't think
once
about that.
like
Yeah.
like once I was done with the movie,
I couldn't even
and
watch
and and
Precious
and,
once.
and, and exactly like not that the subject matter was the same. It's just that one of those movies where I don't exactly get the point of this, and I know that I feel bad after. I
Yeah.
felt bad afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't really get why they're showing us this. It was just like
Yeah, man.
misery. It was just like misery porn.
Mm-hmm.
Like where's like what? I don't see the purpose in this. Like, why
Yeah,
am I
man.
watching this movie?
Yeah, man. It
I
was
thought it was gonna
crazy.
come to some. Yeah, I thought it was gonna end with some point, and I'm just like, this is not really. I just wasted some time, and I feel really bad now.
Yeah, man. And that goes like the quiet person in the back. They got a lot going on in their lives. My man Gilbert had a lot going on in his life, man. His mother was like
Yeah, he had a
800
lot
pounds.
going
His
on.
brother
Oh
was
man,
autistic. I think he was having an affair with a married woman. He had Juliette Lewis was his love interest. It was crazy. I think his father commits suicide, and he's just like holding the
oh my
family
gosh,
together, just walking around
there was
town, just
not
being
one good thing
even
happening.
keel. Yeah, man. Yeah. So, every now and then you got that introverted friend, tap them on the
Yeah,
shoulder and make sure that they all right. What's
yeah,
going
that's a
on, buddy?
and that's a do not watch like
Yeah.
recommendation. That's an anti
That's
recommendation.
the anti-recommendation, yo. Son,
I do not recommend
you know?
like rotten. I don't know. I can't say Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't know. I give that
Yeah, man.
like
Definitely don't watch Precious. I
give
only
that
watched that one time. That's it for me, yo. I'm not watching that again.
those movies get 1X from Jet
Mm-hmm.
Expertise.
What?
Maybe we should use X's, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
we got to go. We said we was gonna go with the G, like the 1G or
Okay,
the
G,
star.
yeah,
The
what?
G or the star.
Yeah, that's
1G. We get
you get
1G.
you get
1G.
1G.
1G for that expertise. You know?
Half a G. You get half a G.
If you wanna feel really bad,
Yeah, watch those. If you
if
want to
that's your
feel,
thing, if that's your
yeah.
bag, 4Gs. But if you
Or
just, you know what I
if
mean?
you think you have it bad, if
Oh
you think you
yes.
have it bad, watch
Yes.
these two movies and you
Mm-hmm.
will feel a little better about whatever you got going on because
Yes.
you cannot have it as bad as these characters in these movies.
Absolutely,
My
man.
goodness.
Absolutely. And as you heard, we've mentioned the word ambivert a few times in the podcast, and that's basically just ambivert falls smack dab in the middle. But
Right.
I've saw people say they fall smack dab in the middle, but then I saw somewhere that it said that ambiverts actually make up 68 to 90% of the population, which is crazy.
Interesting.
So I feel like that's just like thrown in there because it's like lazy science, so to speak, lazy.
But
like
it's the label. Like I said, it's
yeah.
the labels that and I don't consider it lazy exactly, but I do kind of like I do shy away from the idea of labeling everything, but in some cases, that's the only way to have the conversation because that's the only way to make sure we're using like similar language for things and
Mm-hmm.
with some baseline understanding, right? Because we're gonna say ambivert, right? And then you'll find out that people are on this, like I said, there's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Of introvert and extrovert. Not everybody is fitting all of the kind of stereotypes or all of the words that define an introvert in our minds right away. And not everybody fits into the category of extrovert in all the ways that we think of it, right?
Yeah.
So ambivert is a good way to use a word that is gives us common language to say, okay, these people are kind of somewhere in between. Like they're not an introvert, they're not exactly an extrovert, but they're somewhere in between. And it depends on the situation, it depends on who they're
Yeah.
around,
There's a
it
lot that
depends on
goes into it.
yeah, the idea that it depends is kind of where we use the that label ambivert because it just it just makes it easier to have a conversation about this, right? Because I'm glad that this conversation is happening, and I'm glad that it's come up. I'm glad that people have the language to talk about this, because growing up, I never had language for this. Like, people just be like, "Oh, well, you're quiet," and like I said, like in a 19th century society that's looking for your character, post 19th century, they're looking for you to be a showman. And that's not what I was, right? So you kind of get labeled early, and you get put in this category, antisocial, and you get like, and for parents, a lot of parents get this thing like where you have to put your kids in all these social situations, even though they may not thrive in that, right? So I'm glad that there's language for this. I'm glad that there's this discussion happening, because it's easier for parents, it's easier for teachers, it's easier for the children, it's easier for us even as adults coming up, because people can understand this, and maybe the labels are kind of important for that reason. But at least there's a word that we can use to start the conversation, as opposed to saying like the person's antisocial, or they don't like people, or something like that. Because if I had that language, or other people around me had that language when I was younger, I think I would have had an easier time coming up, because I had a lot of bad social situations because of the fact that people would make these assumptions without kind of without having without even trying, right? Like you said, because I guess it can be lazy at times, right? I hate to think of it that way, but some people do use it like they just jump to conclusions because they're lazy, or they're too busy to think through it,
Yeah.
I've always been an introvert, right? Because as a kid, but I've always had a small group of friends, so I never really suffered in that way. Like I never lacked friends. I always had at least a small group of friends, and we connected, and those are my people, right? But the other thing I wanted to say about this book, Quiet, by Susan Cain, she talks about whether or not the qualities of being an introvert or extrovert are with you at birth, or whether they're nurtured, right? And she talks about a study that was done on babies, and honestly, like I can't remember all the exact details, but I do recommend the book, and that you look this up. But she talks about there's a study done on babies that showed that you could tell from a very early age whether or not they'd be introverted and extroverted, and that would be by exposing them to stimuli, to noise, right? They could tell by if you expose a child to noise and certain stimulus, they would start to cry, and you could tell that it was disturbing them, it was bothering them.
Yeah.
But if you did the same thing with some babies, they would kind of like laugh, and they would thrive in it, and you could tell that they're enjoying it, right? And they said that was one way you could tell if you followed these kids throughout their life. You follow them up into teenage years, and even as adults, you see that these people would display the traits of either introvert or extrovert based on whether or not the stimulus either made them happy, or the stimulus made them cry and made them kind of agitated, right? The agitated, they would turn out to be mostly introverts, and those people that would kind of have fun and thrive when there's noise and there's stimulus, like you said, like you thrive in chaos. Like when you introduce that chaos to a baby, you can kind of tell that they're going to be extroverts if they're kind of enjoying it, or if they're not shying away from it, if they're laughing, if they're if they're having fun with it, right? So she also says that it's not an exact science, right? Like we said, there's still ambiverts, there's still people on that spectrum. So it's just something to consider when you're observing. And this is for the parents out there, I think, that I wanted to stress this point, because when you're observing your child, and because of the way society is, like I said, like people want a showman. They want you to be social. There's even schools that focus on socialization more so than the academics at first, right? But you got to kind of assess your kid on a kind of a case by case basis, and understand that they may thrive in a situation where they're in a smaller groups, or they're by themselves and able to study on their own. And this society doesn't necessarily kind of cater to that all the time. So parents are more likely to worry and try to introduce their kids to as many social situations as possible. But I think in this day and age, you got to kind of step back and look at your child and think through whether or not they need something different, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah. So, got anything else to add? I'm good.
No, I mean, there's a lot more to say about this book.
Yeah.
Quiet. Again, I'll say it again, it's Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a world that can't stop talking, and the author is Susan Cain.
There you go.
But we're kind of running out of time here, so I can't go too. There's so much to say about this. We probably could have like multi-parts in this like a multi-part series on this. But yeah, in the interest of time, like I don't really have anything else pressing to say.
Yes.
I think we covered it. So
this concludes our latest episode of the Gen Expertise podcast. Shout out to our now day 49s. You're almost at the halfway mark with us of our long-term goal. Shout out to our day ones and everybody in between. And shout out to our day one. Switch it up again on you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And you know what, man?
Since we are prolific.
That's right. We are prolific. We will be back next week. Same Gen X time and same Gen X place. Peace and power to the podcast.
Power to the podcast.